Hello and welcome to Strange Pathways. Now, I realize that there are a lot of you who are familiar with the YouTube videos. Some of the videos have like the robotic voice talking. Some of them have me. Some of them have a lady speaking that we hired. That format is going to change here as of right now. I'm not saying that we're not going to do that ever again. I'm not ever leaving anything off the table. But I'm switching this over to more of a podcast type format. I've really missed doing this podcast format type stuff. It's always been me and a few other people. So this is my first solo effort. Bear with me. And here's the thing. I can't promise that we're not going to do like little snippets or have like pictures up on this, on the YouTube thing. But at the same time, hey, like I said, I'm leaving everything up on the table. I was perusing Reddit the other day, and I actually found this story called Proboscis Luke. Sorry, the word proboscis pops up there. Boom, immediately catches my attention. Anyway, this is from Tyre Menorah. And Tyre Menorah on Reddit says, when I was a kid, I had a surreal and terrifying experience watching a VHS of the special edition of Star Wars: A New Hope with my mom. I believe this was the late 90s, 1998, but I can't give an exact date, so I apologize. However, I was approximately 11 or 12. Basically, we were watching the part of the film where they're in the Death Star. At one point, when confronted by stormtroopers, Luke's nose suddenly extended grotesquely into a strange flesh-colored elephant's trunk. It then flailed around, making elephant trumpet sounds, scaring the stormtroopers off. Can you imagine? You're like a 11 or 12-year-old kid, and all of a sudden Luke Skywalker, his nose like grows. George Lucas has had some weird ideas, but damn. Actually, I wouldn't put it past him to put that in there. Anyway, Tyre Menorah continues. It then flails around, making elephant trumpet sounds, scaring the stormtroopers off. I vividly remembered this, and I was absolutely terrified. My mom was really jarred and confused and trying to calm me down. Leia then says, "That's enough, Proboscis Luke," and his nose returns to normal. You need commas. This is Scott again. You need commas, because now I don't know if that's enough, comma, Proboscis Luke. Like if it's his name, Proboscis Luke. Or that's enough, Proboscis, comma, Luke. It's the old joke. It's the difference between helping your Uncle Jack, comma, off a horse and helping your uncle jack off a horse. Anyway, Leia then says, "That's enough, Proboscis Luke," and his nose returned to normal. The film also continued on as normal. Every subsequent viewing of our VHS was completely normal. As with every previous viewing, I would have hit rewind real quick. We had already watched the film multiple times prior to the incident, so that precludes it being some strange edited copy, which would be weird in and of itself. My mom still remembers the event, and sometimes we talk about it. It honestly feels somewhat demonic, like something was trying to fuck with us through the VHS. The recent talk of the bigger Luke hypothesis kept reminding me of the incident, so I thought I'd finally post it somewhere. Anyone else have any strange experiences watching films like this? This kind of reads like creepypasta, but at the same time, this absolutely fascinates me. So we have to go in with the presumption that this isn't just a story, that this actually happened. Now, this is going to piss a lot of people off. Probably it's going to get me more death threats than anything I've ever said or will say in the future. I think Star Wars Episode 4 is boring. I think Empire Strikes Back is incredibly boring. Put down the gun. So as like a little kid though, and he said this wasn't the first time watching it. The first thing that pops immediately to mind was this a dream? Right? Because that's immediately what it feels like to me. Like if I would see Luke's nose grow to elephantine proportions and start scaring off stormtroopers. I'd think that was hilarious. But to an 11 or 12-year-old, I could see how that would be terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. This seems very much like a dream. There are cases of like the paranormal kind of popping into movies here and there. You have like the 3 Men and a Baby Ghost, which is obviously just a cutout of Ted Danson in a suit that happens to be propped up against the window. In 2013, there was a black and white silent film made about the silent film era. This was directed by Alex Monte Kanawati, and it stars Jennifer Tilly, Maria Conchita Alonso, Debbie Mazar, Tippi Hedren. So there's a lot of names attached to this. This whole movie, it was photographed with a hand-cranked camera, and it's scored with music of the Roaring Twenties. And you're sitting there going, Scott, why the hell are you telling me about this after you just told me about Elephant Loop? So this film has a weird marketing scheme. Maybe it's marketing. As this film is being edited, the editors are seeing weird stuff in this film, and you can go onto YouTube. You can see this stuff. The actors' faces, and remember, this is old stock film. It's the director says he shot this film using 19 rolls of 16 millimeter film that he found sitting on a sidewalk on Hollywood Boulevard. I know that seems a bit far-fetched, but it is Hollywood. Maybe it was being thrown away. Who knows? But in this film, the actors' faces and bodies, in between shots, in like just 2 or 3 frames, they morph into like these very, very grotesque anomalies. We're talking like elongated fingers, claws, webbed fingers, ghosts that you could kind of see in the background, shadows that look like demons, other shadows that look like skeletons, faces of dead actors would manifest in shots, like Lon Chaney. They said that they were able to see the face of Lon Chaney during this. And even there were like odd events during the production. Jennifer Tilly herself said that she always felt watched, and she sometimes would feel somebody touching her during the filming of this. There is a history in Hollywood of cursed films, of haunted films. The Poltergeist films, which have been met with incredible tragedy. The film that comes almost immediately to mind whenever they talk about cursed films is Atuk the Incomparable. Now Atuk is a movie about an Eskimo that wins a poetry contest. You can still read the novel. Atuk the Incomparable is out there. You can still read the novel. But this film is just, it seems to be absolutely cursed. And I don't put a lot of faith into curses. I think most of them are stuff that we make happen. Atuk is a poet from Baffin Island who ends up going to Toronto. And in the film screenplay, though, he's Alaskan. He ends up in New York City. Actually, if you want to see the film, you kind of sort of can see the film. If you look at Elf is kind of Atuk. They even make jokes about it in the commentary. The part of Atuk was meant to be played by John Belushi. John Belushi passed away, died of an overdose. Then the role fell to Sam Kinison, who died in a car accident. Then the role fell to John Candy, died of heart problems, I believe. And then the role fell to Chris Farley. And the thing that really creeps me out, is that supposedly The legend goes Chris Farley took the script to Atuck and took it to his friend Phil Hartman and said, "Hey, I'm reading this film. I think you should be in it too." Phil Hartman reads the script, loves it. He goes, yeah, I'm in. Chris Farley, of course, died of a drug overdose. Phil Hartman killed by his own wife. So one has to believe that these films are cursed. What is it that curses these films? Like, is Proboscis Luke, is that just like a fever dream? Or is it a demon trying to get into this world through the film? That doesn't seem plausible, doesn't seem right, but who knows what the rules are? Is it just an entity, some sort of parasitic, otherworldly creature who is able to manipulate reality for just a split second that feeds on fear? Are movies like The Omen and Atuck, do they kind of get too close to the truth? Is there something attached to them? And the thing that really scares me, that really kind of keeps me up at night, if something as simple as a script, really just sort of an idea that's put on paper, the only reason that is put on paper is to keep the idea in order, to record it. If an idea becomes cursed, if a negative consequence just based on an idea is possible, I don't even like to think about it, quite honestly. It's kind of scary. It's kind of scary just thinking of a certain idea. Attaching yourself to a certain thought could spell your downfall, where there is no idea. Like if you take meth, you're attaching yourself to a downfall, right? You can see that. You can see the path. I take meth, my teeth fall out, my heart gives out, I die. You can see that. But accepting a role for a movie about a poet Eskimo? And that's frightening. Our next story comes to us from Reddit. This is from Reddit user Professor Finesser. He says, this is from the Reddit paranormal boards, r/paranormal. When I was 8 years old, my family moved from my original childhood home into a 120-year-old house with a lot of history. Yeah, that's kind of freaking me out because the house I'm in is about that old. It was a beautiful house, but there had been a big fire in it many, many years ago, and it was abandoned for 15 years. I really didn't like the house when we first moved. The energy felt off, and I felt like I was constantly being watched. There were certain rooms where the energy felt so off, I refused to go in there alone. We also ended up moving my bedroom after 1 or 2 years because I hated the energy in the room, and I couldn't explain it to anyone. My parents wrote these feelings off as just being a scared 8-year-old, but the feelings about specific rooms maintained until we moved out when I was 18. A lot of strange occurrences happened during the 10 years I lived in this house, so much so that in high school I started to wonder if I could be schizophrenic, even though these occurrences happened exclusively at home, and since moving I haven't experienced anything. I was constantly seeing things out of the corner of my eye or hearing footsteps when I was home alone, but I'm going to share 2 experiences that really stand out in my memory. For my 13th or 14th birthday, I had a few girlfriends sleep over in the living room. God damn, Professor Finesser. Yeah! This might be a woman too. Still. High five. Some of them had never been to my house before, and I didn't tell them anything about it because I just wanted everyone to have a good time and not feel spooked. The next morning, one friend asked why my dad was walking in between our sleeping bags for a while last night. I immediately knew that wasn't my dad. My parents went up to bed while we were still awake, and my dad confirmed he didn't get up in the night. My friend didn't particularly want to sleep over after that first night. Well, nothing's going to destroy like a potential girlfriend like that. Another experience that I vividly remember happened when I was coming home from a party in high school. It was after midnight, but I was definitely sober because I drove that night. I was entering the back door that was in the backyard and opened into the kitchen. We never used the front door. As I was putting my key in the door, I looked through the glass pane on the door. The view went straight through the kitchen and into the hallway near the front of the house. At one side of the hallway wall in view was a full-length mirror hanging up. In the brief seconds I was looking through the glass on the door, I saw a very distinct, solid-looking figure run out of the mirror. It looked like it was in the position that sprinters are in when they crouch down to start a race, and it looked like it was wearing a royal blue morph suit. Weird, but I saw what I saw. The figure ran out of the mirror and dissipated into the staircase on the other side of the hallway. After seeing that, I remember booking it to my bedroom, closing the door, and falling asleep with the lights and the TV on. Could you imagine? I would have just take the chair, smash the mirrors. Ain't no blue morph suit looking dude getting after me. All of that being said, I believe whatever was in my house with us wasn't malicious. We took good care of the house. Now, I like to think that the spirits appreciated us for that. I would love, shoot us a message. Leave a comment on the YouTube channel down below. I'd love to know if anybody had ever lived in an active house. About 5 years ago, I was living in an active house, which is what I've been told to call it. Active, not haunted, active. Let's call it what it is. I lived in a freaking haunted house. One of my buddies is a real estate agent. We call them distressed properties. Freaking haunted. The first experience I had in there absolutely terrified me. Absolutely terrified me. There had been experiences all the time. My dad owned the place. And my dad had seen stuff. But after a while, and maybe in the future I'll talk more about what happened in this house. After a while, though, whenever you realize that whatever's with you isn't malicious, that on some occasions you can talk to it and it will listen, then it becomes it becomes this weird thing of it's almost like having a roommate that you can't see. I've come to think of ghosts, and hear me out on this. Bear with me while you follow my train of thought. If somebody's missing an arm, if they've lost it in an accident, a lot of times that person will complain of a phantom limb syndrome. They can feel the hand. It's still there in their brain, even though physically it's not there. What if ghosts, and this is an out there thought, this is one of the thoughts that's going to get me locked away. What if ghosts are people who have phantom limb pain from full body amputations? That's a stretch. That's a stretch. But mull that around in your head. Let's say it's not because the brain is used to still having, an arm to go back to. I don't feel my fingernails after I've trimmed them, right? I don't feel them after I've trimmed them. I had a bad accident here a couple months ago where my toe was split open, kind of like a hot dog. Now, it's a thing where, it was very odd because whenever it happened, I was in shock, so there was no pain, but I could reach down, and the nerve signals were still sending touch to the toe. So I was feeling the sensation of touch where my toe normally isn't. I don't have any weird phantom pains because of that. So why is it that amputees, people who have warts removed, you don't feel the wart after it's gone? Why do people who lose limbs still feel them, even after years? And I get it. You can't compare a cut toe or a wart to a limb. But at some level, you think the brain would cope and go, oh, arm's not there anymore. Don't have to deal with this. I don't have to send signals to it. Blind people, signals aren't being sent from their eyes. Nobody has phantom. Well, I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe some people have phantom limb syndrome for their eyes where they think they're seeing stuff, but they're actually blind. I don't know. That's a possibility because I'm sitting here talking out of my ass. But the whole thought of maybe the reason you can still feel that arm is because on some level, on a spiritual level, on a paranormal level, a metaphysical level, that arm is still there. If that is the case, then I suppose it is entirely possible that ghosts are people suffering from full body amputations. Just something to think about. I know it's insane. I know a lot of people are, I've dialed the 9 and the 1. I just need to press the 1. And we're going to get Scott some help. I was browsing 4chan's X board the other day, and I found this post about modern dinosaur sightings. And this is one thing that just absolutely fascinates me. I love stories about the Mokele Mbembe, the supposed brontosaurus that lives in the Congo that science says doesn't exist. But for a long time, science said the brontosaurus existed. And then it turned out like we'd never found one with a head. The head that we were slapping on brontosaurus belonged to a dinosaur, that was found 100 miles away from the rest of the skeleton. So they went, whoop, brontosaurs don't exist. And all of a sudden, Sludge, my transformer, is a dinosaur that doesn't exist. And then they find a little bit later on, they find a dinosaur that, this is the brontosaurus. This is it. The skull that went with this one, now this is the brontosaurus. Looks pretty much, big body, tail, 4 legs, long neck. It now has this head. So now the brontosaurus does exist. I don't know. It may not exist anymore. Science can't make up its mind about the brontosaurus, so why should I really trust it about Mokele Mbembe? But what has struck me, what I find not even more fascinating, but in a parallel fascination bracket, I found that there are a veritable smorgasbord of small living T-Rex sightings in South Texas. I got a buddy that lives in Texas. Hi, Walter. How you doing? But the fact that small T-Rexes are being sighted in Texas. Small T-Rexes in Texas. Go ahead. I could say that for hours and just amuse myself. Small T-Rexes in Texas. The fact that there are all these T-Rex sightings in South Texas, that's kind of fascinating to me. That really is. So, over at Lon Strickler's phantomandmonsters.com, for the date of Wednesday, February 19th, 2020, he has all these cryptid sightings of the T-Rex. So, here's one. I'm just gonna read this out. Hello, Lon. A couple of months ago in summer, my friend actually saw a small dinosaur here in town on a main street. Damn. It was evening when she saw it, probably around 8:45. She was driving and noticed the dinosaur cross the street. She saw the shape clearly as it passed another car's headlights on the opposite side. She said oddly that the other car didn't seem to notice as the creature passed. She tried to call me, but her phone was out of minutes. First off, if you're texting and driving and you miss a T-Rex, that's your own fucking fault. You deserve the telephone pole that's in your future. Just a couple of months before, I had actually heard a creature I could only describe as a dinosaur. I had been asleep. It was night, maybe around 1 or 2 a.m. I had awoken, and just at that moment, I heard an unfamiliar screech of something running by my window. We have an AC unit in the window, so the window was basically open. I heard its footsteps as it ran by, and it was heavy, whatever it was. I could hear it clearly on the ground. As it ran further away, I could hear it screech again. It was like nothing I've ever heard in my life. It was loud, too, and I wonder if anyone else heard it or saw it. I live in an apartment complex. I just laid there in bed, completely bewildered by what I had just heard. I questioned my sanity and if I had heard what I thought I heard. So when my friend saw the dinosaur, she was excited and wanted to tell me because of what I heard. I'm only sad that I didn't get to see it too. We both questioned our sanity. These stories you posted helped me feel better and not so crazy. MR, Hebbonville, Texas. Here's another one. This is also on phantomsandmonsters.com. Hello, I noticed your article about small dinosaurs in Hebbonville, Texas. This witness was not exaggerating because I have seen an unknown animal in a field here in Hebbonville. It was April 2011, and I was walking along West David Street to my friend's house on Randanda Road. Randada. Randada. There it is. Randada. That's fun to say, too. Where do you find the T-Rexes in Texas? Randada Road. God, that kind of makes me want to move to Texas. At about 5:45 p.m., I had just gotten off work. On the side of the road where I was walking, I saw dust being kicked up into the air and moving along the field. Then the trail of dust was heading toward the road in front of me. I stopped walking, not knowing what may be exiting at the road. About 40 feet in front of me was what I can only describe as a little T-Rex dinosaur, about 2.5 feet in height. It didn't stop running as it dashed across the road into a smaller field. That's like the perfect height for a T-Rex. You can keep it in the backyard if it's fenced off. It can eat crickets and mice. It was light reddish brown, stood on two legs, and had a long tail that was straight out as it ran. There is no way that this was a lizard known to live here. It looked very much like the photo of the toy I found online. No one wanted to believe me. Well, no shit. My friends and family think I mistook it for another lizard, but I know what I saw. Until I read your article, I thought I may be going crazy. I do believe that there are very strange creatures around here. My ex-husband used to talk about huge birds and walking shadows that he and others would see on a ranch south of Hebbonville. At one point, several cattle would go missing without a trace. He would never stay there at night. Thank you for reading. You can contact me, MG. So there is a final report here on phantomsandmonsters.com, and it goes as such. Hello, sir. This morning I was told by my neighbor that you had received reports of small T-Rex dinosaurs seen in Hebbonville, Texas, and you mentioned it on a radio show. I live near Falfurrias. God damn, the names here in Texas are great. I live near Falfurrias, Texas, which is about 18 miles east of Hebbonville. I and others have seen those creatures. My neighbor and I saw a pair in December 2012 on the roadway behind our houses. We were scared to report our sighting. I know other people in this area have seen the same creatures. A family member is from Sabinas Hidalgo in Mexico. That's it, I'm moving to Texas. Told me that he saw a big lizard the last time he visited us. He saw it while he was driving near McAllen, Texas. Well, the names can't all be winners. He described the same thing we have seen. It was 2 to 3 feet tall, with a large head and a long tail. It ran on two legs and was very dark in color. The two creatures we saw were dark brown and walking quickly on two legs also. It was about 4:30 p.m. and we watched them for about 20 seconds as they moved toward the dead end of the road. We got a very good look. For a few nights after that, we heard short shrills coming from the brush at the end of the road. A couple of weeks later, my son told me that he and his friends found many quail feathers and deer bones scattered by a tree in the same brush. I did contact a wildlife authority about the remains, but didn't mention what we had seen. Smart move! Very smart move! He said that it was probably coyotes, though I have not heard or seen coyotes for a long time. Another neighbor lost a dog about the same time. Again, coyotes were said to be the predator. No remains were ever found. My husband was alarmed, and he had a high, heavy-duty steel-link fence built around the yard so that our grandchildren and pets are safe. My neighbor said that she thought these may be chupacabras, which I did not believe in. I don't know now what to think. Do you think these are real dinosaurs or maybe chupacabras? Our dog, a Rottweiler, has been acting strange lately. He acts calm and fearless sometimes, but he hides and whines at other times. This always happens at night. I think these creatures are around again. In relation to this, these mysterious creatures and coyotes, the dead dog and the deer and the quail feathers, an interesting theory was proposed to me a few days ago. My wife and I were watching the Missing 411 movies, Missing 411 and Missing 411 The Hunted. And while I don't agree with everything Paulides says, I think that some of the stuff that Paulides says is hyped up. I believe certain facts are taken out and not mentioned to make things seem more mysterious than they really are. More on that in another episode. But let's talk about this. What if the government knows cryptids are real? What if they know Bigfoot's a real thing? What if they know that there are tiny T-Rexes running around out there? What if they know these things need to be fed? And the theory that was posited to me was, if these things need to be fed, if these cryptids are real, what if the national parks, these people that go missing in the national parks, what if the national parks are sort of sanctuaries, they're enclosures, they're animal preserves, cryptid preserves that you can walk into and you can sit around and you can enjoy, oh, look at the pretty trees, look at the cliff, look at the waterfall, and all of a sudden your head's ripped off. And every once in a while, one or two people go missing. It can be kind of chalked up to, well, it's the woods. What do you think's going to happen? Don't wander off the trail. I mean, there was a few years ago a story about the government coming in and rescuing horribly burned Bigfoot at Mount St. Helens. We might talk about that on a future episode. I'm not saying, also, you know what? Who knows? I may accidentally cover the same story twice. I'm not perfect. If that happens, bear with me. But let's take that Mount St. Helens Bigfoot story. Supposedly, a bunch of Bigfoot got burned. The special forces came in, patched them up, hauled them away, put one that was horribly, horribly burned and never going to recover, put it out of its misery. What if these national preserves are cryptid animal sanctuaries? It'd be terrifying. It'd be absolutely terrifying. But each one of these state parks seems to have something with it. The last state park I went to was Cape Henlopen in Delaware. And I mean, this Cape Henlopen, it's a beach. It's a nice beach. It's got trails. It's got a disc golf course, campgrounds. It's right on the Atlantic Ocean, right at the New Jersey-Delaware border. And you know what else it has? It has its own cryptid, the Henlopen Devil. And that to me is fascinating. Almost every national park you go to has its own cryptid. Here in Pennsylvania, I live very close to the Chestnut Ridge. The mountain I used to live on, Mount Davis, you can look at it on a map. It's the highest point in Pennsylvania. The Amish around there tell stories about a Bigfoot-like creature that comes in and steals their corn out of the fields. They call it the corn monster. I've talked to somebody who says that she's seen it and left food out for it, that it loves peaches. Just, you got to mix the diet up a little bit. Can't have corn all the time. But kind of put yourself in the shoes of the government. If you had to deal with this, something that for one reason or another you had to keep from the public, and why wouldn't you keep it from the public? If the public is the food source, why wouldn't you keep it a secret from them? I guarantee there is not one cow on this planet that knows that we eat them. If you had to keep this a secret, if you had to feed people to these things, if you had no other choice, how would you do it? A national park system really seems like the best way to do it, doesn't it? My name is Scott Mort. I thank you for listening to this week's Strange Pathways. Get on over to our Facebook. We're going to have more stuff over there. Go over to YouTube, click like, hit subscribe. More content on the way. That is a promise. That is an absolute promise. If you would like to get in touch with us, go to strangepathwaysmail@gmail.com. If you have a story, if you have some sort of paranormal encounter, if you have just a silly little question, shoot us a message over there at strangepathwaysmail@gmail.com. We'll get right on that. Who knows? Maybe we'll have you on as a guest. Thank you so much for listening. See you next time.